Hi, everyone. Meteorologist Joe Chaffee. It's Thursday, and we've got nuisance systems to deal with here in the eastern part of the United States. And as we take a look at this on the satellite loop today, we had some showers move through earlier, and they've now moved offshore. You'll see that on the radar in a second. Also, the onshore flow is relaxing, and I just want to point out. Let me start the loop up again. See how these clouds right here? There's a storm system. The circulation of an Atlantic storm is right there. Okay, and we've got that system just sort of sitting there, so it's impacting how the systems move to the west. So the result was that we kind of had this sort of squeeze play in between with this onshore flow, which is now beginning to relax. And eventually, as we go through the day, this is going to open up at least a bit or enough to allow these weather systems to progress through. They're just sort of taking their time. And here we have the next, here's the next cold front and warm front now. Last night's weather system pushed a weak front just down to the coast, but now that's going to start going back up the other way. And I think that's going to allow for some warming, but we're going to be fighting cloud cover this time around, and that's going to probably limit how high temperatures get in the eastern part of the in the northeastern parts of the U.S. specifically. Now we'll go to the west, where we have, as it's usual, and I'm not just understanding why these satellite loops are doing this, that we're having so much problems. I'm sorry, I lost the satellite loop now as I tried to refresh it, so I think I'm just going to leave it alone. But you saw that there was weather systems coming in to the west, so that parade continues. Here's the last of the first morning batch of showers going by. I think I'm going to be safe to refresh this. Please, yes, okay, it worked. And those showers are moving out. Here's that next band out to the west in the Great Lakes. And, we have a low pressure here, and we have a trailing cold front. And, right through here, whoops, that wasn't supposed to happen. Right through here, we have a warm front, cold front combination. So that the cold part of the front dropped down overnight. Showers are moving out. Now this front's going to back up and go in the other direction as that low pushes to the east. So I'm going to you'll probably start to see some showers and maybe a few thunderstorms develop ahead of it as that front goes by. But for the rest of the daytime, I think we're pretty good here. And then we can look at where we're going with all this. You know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to try something a little different. Rather than look at the whole nation as a whole, let me do the east first, and then I'm going to go do the west. Okay. So here's the thing with the east, and we, by the way, are more optimistic now for Sunday. I think the weekend may wind up being okay through much of the northeastern states and maybe even down into the northern areas of the mid-Atlantic. So this weather system moves through. We're going to get some showers tonight into tomorrow morning, and it may take a little while for skies to clear out, but you can see all the action during the day tomorrow that develops back. So you got this weather front that stalls out, moves through and stalls out into another low that's developing down into Texas. And you got this large area of rain. There'll probably be some severe weather that'll break out with this across parts of Oklahoma, maybe even into Arkansas and Missouri. And then low pressure is going to move to the east into the Tennessee Valley. Now, this is Saturday afternoon. We'll be dry here, although I think we'll probably have to fight off some clouds with a northeast wind, or perhaps a northerly wind might keep it a little drier, but I'm thinking there'll be some high clouds around. Now, this low is weaker. Every single run of the models, all of them, have a weaker low. And while it does bring some rain up into central New Jersey Saturday night, that's as far north as it gets. And then it drops southward. So I think what we could see is probably it go cloudy and then gradually go partly sunny here on Sunday. Might stay more overcast as you go south. You can see most of the rain is going to be confined to the Carolinas and on southward. Now, one of the things you're going to have to watch for is, well, this low is moving in a kind of odd way because it's dropping southeastward, and instead of the usual lifting up northward, it's initially dropping southeastward off the southeast coast, and then it kind of lifts northward along the coast for Tuesday into Wednesday, and it tries to bring in some ocean moisture and also creates an onshore flow here. So that's going to make the forecast tough for the first part of next week. Doesn't look like any big deal at the end of the day, but it is going to make the forecast a little more difficult. And once that gets out of the way, we're going to transition over to what looks like an attempt to warm things up late next week into next weekend. In fact, I would kind of bet on this, that we're going to see temperatures pretty warm here late next week and into next weekend, because a big ridge is building in the east. Now, while all this is going on, you can see what's happening with areas in the middle Mississippi Valley as lows are shooting up northeastward to the Great Lakes. So I think we're going to start seeing some active severe weather. There's a storm forecast by the models at the end of next week. But again, you know how much this is going to change. It would suggest a pretty significant severe weather event for parts of Texas and Arkansas and Missouri. But you know what? We're getting into fantasy land here. And over the long haul, you know, it looks like this ridge in the east is going to be here for a few days, from late next week through next weekend, before any kind of weather front is permitted to go through. So let's chew through the uncertainties of the next 5 or 6 days, and then at this time next week, we could be sitting on the verge of a fairly significant warm period with some dry air and sunshine. That crying you hear is my dog. He's got his head on my lap. My dog is, I have an English Springer Spaniel. I don't know. You guys never get to see him. You do get to see the cat. But here's my Springer. He's 13 years old. His name is Cody, and he physically is in very good shape for a 13-and-a-half-year-old dog, but he's blind and deaf. And it's a little frustrating. So I have to give him hugs and love every once in a while. So let me put him down. Usually after that, he's happy. Gets a little nervous, you know, not being able to see or hear very much. Okay, so that takes care of the east. And now, so let's go to the west, because you guys in the west remain eternally busy, in most cases anyway. So here we are in the western part of the United States, where we've got rain and snow on the GFS, you know, moving into the Rockies late this week. Some areas look like they're going to get a decent amount of rain. And another system comes into the northwest and translates eastward. And you can see that from the low that goes up into the Dakotas by early next week. And yet another system comes in. You see how the parade works in the west this year. It's just been endless with storm after storm. You really are making up for some areas anyway, are making up for years of not much happening. And here we have, you know, by the end of next week, some rain and snows from the central and northern Rockies into the northwest. And here's where the model, you know, with this this pretty deep low that it forms in South Texas, if this is real at the end of next week, because that's a significant rain and snow producer from New Mexico all the way up through the Rockies, and out that low goes. And again, yet another system in the Pacific Northwest. It's an endless parade. Looks like California, for the most part now, escapes most of this stuff, the way things are setting up. So we might be starting to get, see some signs of that seasonal dry period that takes hold. All right, so now we'll look at the upper air and figure this all out and see where we're going with all this. Here we go. Well, that's interesting. I jumped up. I'm already at day 12 and 13 to see that big low out in the Atlantic. So not sure how real that is. Okay, so here we are at the present time. You can see how, you got these troughs. They keep just sort of rotating through. You got this upper high, this low that's sitting out in the Atlantic and not doing very much. And by the way, that storm that I pointed out in the Atlantic actually has the subtropical depression that's out in the central Atlantic rotating around it, and I'm going to show you that next. Okay, so here we have our weather pattern here in the east. So you see what happens on the models, and this is something that, the European had this mega rainstorm from Sunday and Monday, and with a low a fairly deep low moving up the coast days ago, and the GFS never really bought onto that to the Europeans' extent, and it wound up being correct. But you see how this upper trough is not getting picked up by the northern stream. It's getting passed by. So it doesn't, instead of lifting up to the northeast, it actually just winds up moving east and southeast and staying weak. And part of that, and that problem is because you have this strong Pacific jet coming into the west. So there's no ridge here in the west to kind of help it to lift up to the northeast. So that's the reason why this really didn't evolve to what we thought it would back a number of days ago. And you can see that trough in the west is very persistent. Now, by the middle of next week, we start to see the ridge building in the eastern states. But here's what's left of that system that moves to the south, off the southeast coast. It just kind of sits there for a little while. So we're going to have to watch to see. I know it kind of looks sort of innocent, but we're going to have to watch to see how it plays, because this is the time of year where you get these sort of these lows that form just offshore, and they throw moisture, ocean moisture back, and they can be a real nuisance to forecast. The overall trend, though, is this very deep trough in the west. It's back to, pretty much how we had it during the wintertime, and then that ridge builds and flies up into the eastern part of the United States. So here's our warm period. Look at this. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and because you've got this deep low that forms south of Greenland, that really pumps up the ridge even more. So this could be a nice, very warm 3 to 4 day stretch setting up late next week and next weekend. And again, as long as you got this troughing in the west, everything's going to be out of balance this way in the eastern part of the United States. Going forward, going forward as we move now, this is early May, the first few days of May. It does have a bit of a colder look. Things are starting to move along again. The trough in the west is beginning to weaken, and a little bit of ridging replaces it. But I don't know where this is going to go really in terms of, as far as the longer term is concerned. Okay, so here's that tropical depression, and we're at 35 degrees north. Here's the low right there. You see it right there, how it's kind of just lifting on up. It's sort of moving north-northwest now, and you can also see these clouds are spiraling around. That's that coastal low that I showed you on the wider satellite view. It's on the southern edge of this. I'm going to see if we can pick it up, if I still got that eastern shot. But right in here, you can see it here. Here's that. This is the non-tropical system that is really dictating what the tropical one is doing, which is the subtropical one is doing, which is lifting up north and northwest. Now, it looks like a pretty well-defined circulation. But it really isn't that well-defined. And you've got this sort of very small core band of thunderstorms trying to develop around it. But the system is being lifted up northeast, and I suspect what's going to happen is this is all going to wind up getting absorbed by the stronger non-tropical low to the west. But just the fact that we have a tropical system in April is pretty unusual. And by the way, not unprecedented. It has happened a number of times before. You can go back even into the early 1900s and see tropical systems that have occurred in the month of April. So you can't, people are tend to view these odd events and make them sort of come to these worldwide cataclysmic conclusions about them, and you can't do that. You can't use any one specific event as a sign of some sort of huge global climate change or whatever you want to call it. These are one events, and if you have 30 of them, okay, if you start having tropical storms every April and start seeing hurricanes develop, then yeah, I would think that you might argue that the climate has changed, and you can't use a one particular storm, one particular cold outbreak, one particular warm air outbreak, or even one season of this sort of stuff to come to sort of any monumental conclusion. Okay, that's the end of my rant today and the end of my video. Download my app and subscribe to my forecast for New York City, Long Island, New Jersey, Hudson Valley, and Eastern Pennsylvania. It's just 99 cents a month, and you get my forecast and you don't get any sort of automated weather model icon stuff. Okay, and that's available on iTunes and for Android. Website at meteorologistjoechaffee.com. Angry Ben is on nycweathernow.com. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you haven't already, just hit the little red subscribe button. That's absolutely free. You'll get notified of new videos that come out. Just like yesterday when I did a second video to show you the tropical system, thanks to a heads up by Aztec, who's one of my regular watchers, and I really appreciate that. I was just on my way out the door, and I saw your comment about System Invest 91L, and then I punched it up, and I said, whoa, it's a subtropical depression. Let me do a quick video. All right, everybody have a great day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.